So I started writing to process the world, and writing as somebody who used to be an actor is really, and just a newly trained actor, I knew what it meant to like breathe and surround sound. I knew a little bit of what it meant to write a part that I would one day want to be in. And so I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote, and now I get to come back as an artist that sort of understands a bit of what her voice wants to do, and there's an articulation to the work that I enjoy, and an ability to stand at the center of that, which I didn't have in conservatory. So it's really lovely to be back at A.C.T. and go, okay, here I am, and I am aware, I am awake, I can create, and this is the house I feel as if I can really have a direct conversation with.
And it also feels like to me, I mean, your plays in this 9-play cycle, this deliciously ambitious play cycle that you're en route to completing, that obviously there's something deeply personal. They're not necessarily autobiographical, but deeply personal. And it feels to me, one of my favorite ones, and I know it's not produced yet, and fingers crossed someday, in The Grove, it's the first play. It feels like there are some big questions and deeply personal questions. And I wonder, this is just sort of a general sort of question. When you first started to write, you talked a little bit just now about artistic exploration, but it also feels like what were some of the questions, not necessarily that you wanted out in the world, but that you tried to answer by writing when you first started?
So that's a great question for me, because writing is actually a beautiful melding of what I learned through my acting artistic body, and then also what I'm bringing from Wellesley in terms of an academic rigorous questioning. So all of my plays do have a question attached to them. So for a play like Sojourners, it's, can the Nigerian dream operate, function, thrive within an American paradigm? It is a very heady, cerebral, academic question that I know how to explore now through the world of actors' bodies, because that is what my training is in. You take a look at something like The Grove, and that was a really personal question, because it took me a longer time to go, this is who I am, this is what I am, this is me. So what is it to be, how do you self-identify when your culture is collectivist? Are you wrong when you decide to take on an I, when everything around you is like, who are we?
But sort of the American of you is an I, right? I mean, and the American culture is very I focused. And so Nigerian culture, first generation American Nigerian, or Nigerian American, is collectivist.
It's collectivist. The question would become like, who are we? And so I sometimes laugh when I'm talking to like students, and we are going like a back and forth in the classroom, and one student was like, well, I want to break up with someone, and I'm like, ooh, that is great for you, because that's not something I think I would have known how to articulate. And I was figuring out while writing The Grove, it was like, is this person that I'm bringing in right for us? Like, it's not just for my body that I love somebody.
And I'm sort of hearing from you, that's not just family, it's bigger than family.
It's bigger than family. It's like, here's the family, here's your compound, here's your village, here's your state, here's your...
And language, right? I mean, Nigeria, 500 languages.
520 plus. Not, I don't think inclusive of dialects. I'm not sure if that's inclusive of dialects, yeah.
And language is really important in your plays.
It is.
And living both in English as well as
EBBO.
EBBO,
And then there's some others that sometimes I will go into a pidgin, which is the creolized version of English. And then, when you're talking about Nigeria, one of my, I believe his name is Ola Rotimi, and he wrote the play Hopes of the Living Dead. And in that play, he's got 14 different languages happening, because he set it in a Nigerian lepers colony. And how do you write about Nigeria without tackling language? It's not like It's not like here where you're like trying as much as you can to impose English on everybody.
Right. I mean, the U.S. At least coming out of the 1890s, this notion of a melting pot, which I think is changing.
It's changing.
And sort of multiculturalism gets bandied about, and ESL in schools, and but there is an ethos that you're American or you're not.
Exactly. And that's not how I experience the world. I would go home and there would be a fluid switching between EBBO and English between my mom and my dad. And then I see other Nigerian enclaves and there's even more languages happening. So when it comes to writing a play like her Portmanteau, I'm like, well, the politics of language are very, very important here.
And can you talk a little more specifically about her Portmanteau? So that's what we're producing, the Strand.
That is what we're producing.
That's what we're gearing up for.
Yeah.
So I know in New York, when I first encountered this play, that it was in conversation with Sojourners.
Yes.
And so in San Francisco, coming up in the spring, it's going to be in conversation with In Old Age. Correct. So again, we're tracking a mother, the
matriarchal line, Abasiyama.
Yeah, Abasiyama. And can you talk a little bit maybe about her or about,
So interestingly, when I was first writing the cycle, I thought that I was focusing on the male character, disciple. And then I kept writing and I realized, no, you're not. I'm really focusing on the matriarch, Abasiyama. So in the cycle of 9, Abasiyama is the linchpin for how this family is going to build legacy, and she is the mastermind. She is the burden holder, the gift giver. Right. She's the, it is through her body that this clan moves forward. And so when you're taking a look at something like her Portmanteau is the reckoning of a decision she made in Sojourners, where I don't know if I should give it all away. So I'll just say,
you don't have to.
Something happened in Sojourners that you will see come home to roost in her Portmanteau.
Very cool. I've been spending especially this last month, a lot of time in airports.
Yeah.
And I love that her Portmanteau starts in an airport.
It does.
And it's a phone call in an airport. And I've been lucky enough to, even though I've been flying domestic, to be flying out of SFO, an international terminal. And it just feels emotional at every turn.
Yes, yeah. It's interesting too, because I think her Portmanteau starts off with an old-fashioned payphone.
Yeah.
And they still exist.
They still exist.
Some old-fashioned payphones.
No, in airports.
In airports. Yeah. Because of who's coming in and how, and not everybody might have a smartphone.
Yeah.
And
or it might not be ready to be international when they land. So those phones do actually get used.
Important.
Yeah, but I love that initial stage direction of like, it's a person, a woman,
Yes.
we don't know her yet. And she is dialing so many numbers. So we know how far away that destination, the other phone ringing, is so far away. Yes. We'll catch up. Yeah. We'll learn who, and it's really exciting. But recently I've been clocking those ladies on phones in airports.
Exactly.
Yeah.
going, and then the terror going, where are you? It's a completely different land. It's a new smell. The colors are different. Yeah. Energy, you're decentered. So that is a very vulnerable moment, I think. Absolutely. Walking off and not knowing when you're going to go back home, if you're going to go back home.
Yeah. And what is home? Like, can you carry home with you? Yeah. No, I'm so excited. Here's a question. What do you look for in a director? She asks selfishly, sitting next to a fantastic playwright. But also talk about Victor Maog, who's going to direct both these plays here in San Francisco.
So it's probably why I'm really excited about Victor. So all of my answers are all gonna crash into each other and alike. Right. And it's really important for me that a director doesn't necessarily try to translate my work for audience's ease, which is a very interesting thing, especially when you're talking about American theater, there's a desire for it to be so easily digestible, all the thinking is gone sometimes. And I am writing immigrant stories, and so I'm really interested in that gap. Where you think you understand and where all of a sudden you're going to trip and fall into your own assumption. And I don't want that area cleaned up. So Victor, especially in my work with him at the National Black Theater, strikes a great balance of making sure that the audience doesn't feel lost for so long that they are like, okay, I give up on you. And also make sure to take care of my desire not to overly explicate anything. And so...
Right, you want the 100 minutes to be, the unfolding.
Yes. So he is somebody who knows, do not subtitle Mfoniso's work, even though you have got a quarter of a play in Ibibio. There's a rhyme, there's a reason, there's a function for that. And then what it is to activate the actor within a wall of language that is not English, so that you start to understand body and go, okay, I have to figure it out through nonverbals alone, because that line of communication is cut off from me. And that can be very much so the same kind of experience an immigrant is going through.